No matter where your shipments come from, they'll be collected in a single actionable page. Quickly select any number of shipments and post them directly to load boards instantly. Then your reps can easily manage all of their quotes from a single screen. But for carriers that won't allow real-time tracking, Tai has a simple feature that allows your reps to mass text drivers all in one click. Tai sends an email directly to your clients, providing them with the recent tracking update. Easy, right?
I got friends only wanna talk business. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I've been winning all the war. And I've been shutting down the stars.
And welcome to Put That Coffee Down, the freight sales show for closers. My name is Kevin Hill, and we have an exciting half hour for you. We're going to talk about building efficiencies in freight sales. It's a different world than it was a year ago today, where the market was going crazy. All the value was in finding capacity, and really, everyone took your phone call. All shippers kind of took your phone call. Everyone was looking for capacity. Now it's a little bit more of a race to the bottom. So building those efficiencies, building a sales process that will last through a soft market. I think OTRI is around 5.2% right now. Very soft market, a lot of capacity out there. So building efficiencies, getting in front of those shippers, providing additional value is what it's all about. We'll talk to Sean McGillicuddy. He's a VP of Sales and Marketing over at Tai a little bit in here in just a second, actually. But first, let's talk about the stock market and the freight market, all combined into one. If we can throw up our graph here of the Mercube FreightWaves Supply Chain Tech Index, along with, and that's going to be in white. In blue, we have OTRI, and of course, that's our outbound tender rejection index. And what we find here is that they track very, very closely, right? When capacity is loose, valuations are down. When capacity is tight, like they're in 2021, the market values supply chain tech a little bit more. You see a very tight correlation here, except for, in August and September, we had the bear market rally. And you can see the valuations of supply chain tech companies, freight tech companies bounce up there. But since, early September, certainly mid-September, once FedEx kind of went out with their warning, withdrew their fiscal guidance, the entire market as a whole has been down about 6.7% from September 15th when the report from FedEx went out. And FedEx itself is down 43% since then. But there you have the supply chain tech index along with OTRI. Gives you a sense of, when capacity is tight, valuations go up. Valuations come down is usually when capacity is out there. 5%, 5.21%. OTRI is back to 2019 levels. It's very loose out there. So what kind of peak season we're going to have, this is something that's on everyone's mind. And we did a little bit of research on that, survey-based research. And if we throw up the second chart here on the show, we can take a gander at that. And this is a survey that we did out to our readers, our freight broker readers, and our carrier readers, so both the asset and non-asset based transportation providers. What are your thoughts on this year's peak holiday season in the freight markets compared to 2021 and 2020? So how's 2022 going to stack up against the last couple of years, those pandemic years? And what we find is almost 2/3 think we're going to see a decrease in volumes come peak season. I think peak season brought us up about 25%. OTRI, kind of that holiday period from Thanksgiving on to Christmas. In 2019, we saw double digits briefly in OTRI, and I think that's probably what we'll see in 2022, barring any unforeseen economic expansion out there. But it looks like a lot of headwinds are facing the economy right now, and that's going to be facing the consumer and peak holiday season as well. We talk about inflation, we talk about rising interest rates, we talk about a mix shift back to travel and experiences over physical goods. So we'll see what the consumer does coming up here in the fourth quarter. That's just right around the corner. Monday will be the first business day of the fourth quarter. It should be quite an interesting time. So we'll keep tuned on that. But throughout this freight environment right now that we see, it's important, vitally important, to build out efficiencies in your sales process through your sales team, whether you're a freight broker, carrier, freight tech company, anyone in freight sales should be very aware of this. And this is what we're going to talk about with Sean here. We'll welcome Sean McGillicuddy to the show.
Hey, Kevin. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too again, Sean. Always a pleasure having you on. Put that coffee down. And we're going to talk about efficiency. So, first of all, give a little background about Tai and yourself.
Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know, Tai Software is a TMS platform specifically built for brokers. So brokers doing full truckload and LTL. And we really just try to focus on taking the business model of brokers and really just streamlining things. We always think of the brokerage business model the brokerage job is difficult, right? But the business model is not necessarily complicated. You got shippers, you got carriers. And so our goal is always to just simplify the process so that it feels that simple for your team that you have on staff today.
Yeah, I had Mitchell on a few weeks ago. We talked about email efficiencies kind of through that, and we might touch upon that a little bit today. First of all, you talked to a lot of freight brokers. I talked to a lot of freight brokers, and just wanted to get a sense of kind of what you're seeing in the freight broker market right now.
Yeah, so probably is not a surprise to anybody that we've seen a major shift from obviously last year and earlier this year. It was all about we need technology that can handle our growth. We need ways to handle our growth. We need to manage capacity. Everything was really tight, and so we've seen a major shift from that into how can we be more efficient in an unpredictable market. How do we make sure that we're investing in the good people that we have today, knowing that we're not really sure if we're going to bring more people on. We're uncertain about what the growth looks like. You definitely still have brokers talking about growth and, ways to handle their growth. But I think when markets tighten up, goes kind of without saying, but, management teams start looking at, are we being efficient with the money that we're spending, right? Are we making sure that whatever investments we're making today are actually, maximizing and making sure that we're reducing cost overall and trying to maximize the people that we have.
Are you seeing, when you talk to freight brokers, is it more of a concern on, let's say, the operation side or the carrier sales side or the business development side, or maybe the connectivity between those two and becoming more efficient that way?
Yeah. I think it's probably a combination overall, but the brokers that last year, still put a lot of emphasis on making sure they were taking care of their top trucking companies that they like to work with, their top carriers that are their partners. They're definitely in a good position today. Capacity loosened up and you can spread things out. It's just always a good thing to invest in the relationships with the carriers. But I think the emphasis is a little bit more on retaining the customers that we have, keeping them happy. And then, like you mentioned, the business development side, how are we going to go out and win, more clients, knowing that there's obviously been a dip and there could be more of a dip. And we have no idea what next year really holds other than a lot of various predictions. And in my opinion, and this is just kind of sales philosophy in general, but when you're going out there and you're looking for new shippers to work with, or you're trying to make sure that you're getting all of the freight volume from the current customers you have, the emphasis should always be on partnerships. This is a really relationship based business, and I teach my own sales team this often. But if you go out there and somebody is just like, yeah, get me a lower price, right? There's always those opportunities out there. If you can get a quick spot quote turnaround on a shipper who tends to blast out their requests to a lot of brokers, of course you want to win those opportunities as well. But the main emphasis is on the relationship. If you win a shipper on price, it is likely that you will lose that shipper on price later, as soon as somebody can come in and undercut it. So it's the relationships that are most important. So anybody that you have on your team on the sales side who is particularly good at building relationships and really understanding the shipper's needs and winning on relationship and accommodating needs versus price, that is a valuable person. So anything you can do to free them up, and you had, like you said, you had Mitch on here a few weeks ago talking about email efficiencies and integrating email with your TMS. Things like that will free those business development reps up to go after that business and build those relationships more. And I think that's really a very important place to spend your money. Make sure that your top talent has what they need to build those relationships and win new customers.
Yeah, I agree totally with you on the relationships and the partnerships, right? Right now, it's all about building value. Mitch and I talked about email and the velocity of the email, quality and velocity of getting back to shippers. Part of your job as a freight broker is solving problems, and problems happen all the time, every day, and they're often difficult problems that some other freight brokers that they might be working with might be shying away from, or might go incognito for an afternoon because they just don't have the answer. Having that velocity is really building that trust, that relationship, and that partnership, and that gets you out of the price conversation all the time. We all know price is important, but the more you can divert away from price with that value, the better off you're going to be in the long run.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's obviously quick turnaround times when you're talking with shippers. And, Mitch was mentioning that like email, the way to automate the process of responding to emails for spot quotes and for your customers and things like that. But, to take that even a step further, if you're building good relationships with your shippers, you might end up on the phone with them quite a bit, and some of them prefer, blasting a bunch of emails. And so there's got to be a way to accommodate that. You can't have your top sales talent just doing data entry off of an email all day. It's not an efficient use of their time. But then also if somebody calls up, you may have talented reps who maybe aren't as seasoned as some of your really seasoned brokers. And so for them to be able to turn around a quote for the shipper quickly, one of the things we do within our platform is we make it so that while you're on the phone with that shipper, you type in that order and you can see all of your rating intelligence tools, including Sonar, just to throw that plug in for you guys for FreightWaves. But you can see all of your rating tools in one place, and then you can see your whole history of everybody, all your top carriers who have quoted you on that lane recently. And what that does is it takes some of your really ambitious, talented sales reps, and it empowers them on one screen to be able to get an answer really quick. While they're still on the phone, they can type in that lane. They can find out exactly what the market is bearing for that lane right now and feel very confident about getting them a quote. So while they're on the phone, and if they're a good closer, right, and they're good at sales, then they can actually, while they're on the phone, push for them to commit, right? They gave you a good price. This sounds fair. Handle that negotiation right over the phone. You know what kind of room you have, just based on what you're looking at on one screen. So if you can get that answer back to the shipper and push for them to book it immediately, then you've just reduced, this back and forth process and eliminated a lot of the tedious data entry and just trying to win on price, right? So it's super helpful for, any good sales rep.
Yeah, I think efficiencies, you hit the nail on the head right there. Efficiencies is getting rid of that tedious work. And sometimes that tedious work doesn't equate. It is data entry, but it's not, accounting or administrative. It is actually the sales process that there's a lot of tedious work going back and forth, multiple screens, and really recreating the task each and every time. It's tailored a little bit, but having to go through 10 steps to get a quote over to a customer, or rebuilding that quote from scratch each time, almost, right? That's very inefficient. It takes a lot of time from the people who close, right? You want the people who closing, not starting forms from scratch or quotes from scratch each and every time. You want to make it as quickly and as efficient as possible to get those answers over, to work more business, work those phones, and talk to as many shippers as possible every single day.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really important. I mean, I know a lot of people, a lot of companies to eliminate data entry are using, the nearshore option, and that's a great option. But if you're trying to invest in your people, your top talent, and trying to make their lives a little easier, technology is a great option. And like you mentioned, sometimes there's a lot of steps. I mean, you don't want your top reps to be so busy that anything that comes in, they just always post it on the load board without really having handy, who that could go directly to, what trucking company that could go directly to, because you're probably going to get a better price from your loyal carriers that you work with regularly. So to be able to easily reduce, because I mean, a lot of brokers, that they're trying to get a spot quote, they're bringing up DAT, they're bringing up truck stop, they're looking at other rating intelligence tools, sonar, green screens, yeah, exactly. So all of these different tools that you could be leveraging, and it's a seasoned broker, usually when you talk to them about it, they're like, yeah, I mean, this is my process, I know how to do it, it works well, it is what it is, like it's all over the place, right? But if you take all of those great tools that you're using today and you put them on one screen, now the seasoned broker can teach the young, ambitious sales rep exactly what they would do. Instead of it all being in their head, it's all on one screen. And you can say, hey, here's DAT, here's truck stop, here's track, right? All of this stuff is here. And then here's all the carriers that have quoted us, in the last few days on this lane. And here's the rates they're giving us. If that's all on one screen, it's remarkably easier to train a brand new rep who is not a brand new rep, but maybe somebody who's been in the industry only a few years, doesn't have that knowledge of every lane, right? But they are ambitious. They're really good at winning the shipper over, building good relationships. And if you empower them with tools like that, that's the way to invest in your top talent, in my opinion.
It really is. Whenever I started freight brokering, our rate machine was Vince, and you'd ask Vince, what do you pay on this lane? What do you pay to the truck on this lane? It didn't matter what lane it was. We did a lot of flatbed. He always said $2 a mile, $2 a mile, and that was kind of what we used, was completely inefficient and worthless information half the time. But I started off the program talking about OTRI, very soft market, talking about, you don't really have to go too far. Reading the news these days to realize that we might be in a recession. Who knows if it's official or not, but we're definitely in a slowdown. But there's some high growth freight brokers out there. Everyone's been high growth the last couple of years. So, how do you keep thinking about growth, prepare for an economic slowdown, and integrate, keep on those improvements in technology or those efficiencies, investing in technology? How do you go about that as your freight broker?
Yeah, well, I think, at the risk of sounding repetitive, but if you are investing in the top talent who can win new shippers and can take the shippers that you're working with today and make sure that they're getting, the full, the full freight volume from those shippers, that's really, really important. And so, obviously looking into, in an unpredictable market, you have to actually take the time to go through the P&L and look at areas where you're spending money that isn't yielding any additional revenue, or it's not adding any efficiency. And so I think it's really important to, not necessarily take your foot off the gas when it comes to just the, that fast pace that we had last year and earlier this year. Some of your top salespeople are going to thrive on kind of keeping themselves moving. And I think they got to do that. And so to me, the owner of a freight brokerage, the best thing they can do is look through the P&L and find out where you're spending money, where, you shouldn't necessarily be spending money. And sometimes there's technology out there that may sound expensive on the front end, but if you look at what it replaces for you, there's multiple areas where you could pull things off of the expense side to add a tool in. And there's so many cool tools out there these days for capacity management and tracking and different things like that, and rating, like we're talking about. So, I think it's really important to actually take a look at everything and don't necessarily just look at the cost of a new piece of technology. If it's going to make your team more efficient and your sales reps and your ops team are telling you that, hey, this is really something that could help us a lot. Look for those areas where I see this a lot with companies that have been, using the same technologies for a long time and have been around a while. They're obviously doing a really good job. There's brokers that have been around a long time, and it's hard to tell them that, like, there's ways to improve because they already are doing very well, right? They're already very knowledgeable. But if you can take that time and be honest with yourself and look into the P&L and find out how many expenses could I take off of, this list if I invested in this other piece of technology, you might actually find that even though there's a sticker shock over here, you're actually saving a lot of money in the long run. And I think in an unpredictable economy, if we are in a recession, which it definitely seems like we are, then those are the most important things. And, I hate to see anybody pull back on their sales process, right? Like, that now I think is almost the time to, if you can afford it, put some money into that. Make sure that you are going after continuing to grow your business, but do it in a smarter way. There's not, there's a little bit more time to take a step back, look at the P&L and find out exactly where you're wasting money and make sure that you're able to take that off the balance sheet and make sure that money, those dollars are being used smart in order to continue to grow and continue to be stable in an uncertain economy.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I agree wholeheartedly. This is time to grow. If you want to grow, there's no better time than in a slowdown in the market to grow, because then you're prepping yourself, you're preparing yourself, you're getting the technology in place, you're getting the business processes in place to really take advantage of the next upturn in the market. If you wait until the next upturn in the market, by the time you get everything set in place, you're into the next downturn, and then it's then you start slashing everything maybe, and you go on this repeat cycle, like you see a lot of businesses do, which is unfortunate. But yeah, this is time to really examine when you see freight brokers looking at their P&L. What's if you had to pick one place that they're really examining and shopping around for, what piece of technology or what business process would that be?
Yeah, so looking, what I'm seeing is looking into, legacy technologies that charge a lot for everything that they do for the broker. So anytime you want to make a slight adjustment to your software, anytime you need a little extra support, there's sometimes some pretty hefty charges that if you add them up over the course
project
of the
management
year,
fees.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're spending a lot on things like that. And so, there's a lot of, last year it was like a renaissance for technology in this industry. There was so much opportunity to try and help brokers be more efficient. And so, there's capacity management tools that automate your capacity. There's email tools that make it so that you can, quickly respond to your customers, right? And a lot of this stuff these days is out of the box, right? There's not a major need to pay a ton of money for professional services to your software provider or a project manager, because a lot of this stuff comes standard. And so you just, there's an efficient workflow already built for the broker. And that's what we focus really, really heavily on, is something that you could put in the hands of your broker quickly, and you can plug all of your most useful broker tools into that and give them efficiency today. And a lot of times you'll find that you're paying, even though, you end up paying quite a bit on those professional service fees, project management fees, extra things that you might not actually need. You might actually be able to eliminate some hefty costs for things that you're trying to sort of think through yourself, when there may already be a great solution in place that's on the market today. It's out of the box. And I would really encourage brokers to look for tools like that, because there's so many that have come out in the last couple of years.
There is. It was a renaissance. 2021 was a renaissance. I think it pulled the freight tech industry forward by a decade, probably, just going through the pandemic. Definitely. Really all technology. Sean, thanks for joining us today on Put That Coffee Down. Always a pleasure. How does our audience go out and reach out real quick to get in touch?
Yeah, if anybody wants to talk to Tai about getting a demo, you can go to tai-software.com. So that's tai-software.com. If you want there's plenty of information there, even if you're just looking for even if you're not looking to replace your TMS and you're just looking for other technologies, there's all kinds of information there to help out brokers.
Thank you very much. Again, thanks for coming on the show, Sean.
Thank you, Kevin. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And talking about Freight Tech, the Freight Tech Top 100 list for this year is out on freightwaves.com, so you can go and check that out. Go down to Freightcast or Put That Coffee Down wherever you download podcasts and download it that way. And you can always find us on tv.freightwaves.com. But this wraps this down, and we'll see you next week.
I got friends only wanna talk business. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I've been winning all the war. I've been shutting down the stars.